There are certain moments in life when you sense that something meaningful is quietly approaching, even if you cannot yet explain why. Nothing dramatic has happened on the surface. No clear confession has been spoken. No obvious signs have appeared. And yet there is a subtle shift in energy that feels impossible to ignore. Sometimes human connection begins this way. Not through loud gestures or instant certainty, but through small moments that slowly gain emotional weight over time. A passing conversation, a shared glance, a feeling of comfort around someone you barely expected to notice, can unexpectedly leave a lasting impression. There may be someone in your life right now who feels drawn toward you in a way they themselves are still trying to understand. This attraction is not built on fantasy or reckless excitement. Instead, it feels thoughtful, calm, and emotionally sincere. They may be younger than you in energy, perspective, or life experience, but what they feel is rooted in curiosity and genuine emotional interest, rather than impulsiveness. Sometimes people unexpectedly meet someone whose presence feels comforting in ways they cannot easily explain. It is not always about appearance or excitement. Often it is about emotional safety, understanding, and the feeling of being able to relax around another person without pretending to be someone else. What makes these situations meaningful is how naturally they begin. Many strong connections do not start with dramatic declarations. They begin quietly through observation and emotional awareness. This person may replay ordinary moments in their mind, moments you barely remember, because those interactions carried emotional significance for them. A simple conversation, a kind response, or even the way you listened attentively may have stayed with them longer than expected. Human beings are deeply affected by how others make them feel, and sometimes the smallest interactions create the strongest emotional impressions. There is something deeply human about being drawn toward someone who feels grounding during uncertain periods of life. In a world filled with distractions, rushed communication, and temporary attention, genuine emotional calm can feel rare. Some people naturally carry a presence that makes others feel understood without judgment. They listen carefully, they speak thoughtfully, they create comfort without demanding attention. These qualities often leave stronger impressions than dramatic charm ever could. The person thinking about you may admire the way you carry yourself emotionally. They notice how you remain patient in conversations, how you avoid unnecessary conflict, and how your presence feels steady rather than chaotic. What they feel is not shallow excitement, but growing respect. They sense emotional depth in you, and that depth creates curiosity. They may wonder what kind of experiences shaped your perspective, what thoughts remain unspoken behind your calmness, and what it would feel like to know you more personally over time. At the same time, they may also feel uncertain about how to approach you. Genuine feelings often create hesitation, because people fear misunderstanding situations that matter emotionally. When someone truly respects another person, they usually become more careful rather than impulsive. They think about timing. They reflect on whether their feelings are appropriate and mutual. They worry about making the other person uncomfortable or disrupting the natural balance that already exists between them. This hesitation is not weakness. In many ways it reflects emotional maturity. There are people who rush toward connection without thought, driven only by excitement or attention. But meaningful emotional interest tends to move more slowly. It observes quietly. It reflects deeply. It waits for moments that feel natural rather than forced. This person may pull back at times, trying to understand whether their feelings are temporary or genuine. Yet instead of fading, the emotional connection may continue becoming clearer with time. What began as curiosity slowly transforms into something more intentional. One of the most powerful aspects of human connection is how often it develops silently before words are ever spoken. Long before confessions or conversations happen, people begin noticing details about one another. They observe emotional shifts, changes in mood, and small habits that others overlook. This is not about control or obsession. It is about attention. When someone genuinely cares, they become naturally aware of the emotional atmosphere surrounding the person they admire. They may notice when you seem more reflective than usual, or when your energy feels lighter on certain days. They may find themselves wondering whether you are carrying stress privately, or whether you are genuinely happy in moments when you smile. These thoughts arise not because they feel entitled to your emotions, but because emotional interest naturally creates empathy. Caring about someone often begins through quiet concern before it ever becomes romantic. At the same time, it is important to understand that healthy connection requires balance. Admiration becomes meaningful only when it is paired with respect, patience, and emotional boundaries. A sincere connection should never feel overwhelming or intrusive. The healthiest relationships grow gradually, allowing trust to develop naturally through communication, shared experiences, and emotional honesty. This slower process often creates stronger foundations because both people have time to understand each other clearly. The anticipation surrounding an unspoken connection can sometimes feel intense because uncertainty naturally heightens emotion. People imagine conversations before they happen. They wonder how the other person truly feels. They replay interactions, searching for meaning in ordinary moments. Yet anticipation also creates growth. Someone who deeply admires another person often becomes more self-aware in the process. They begin reflecting on their own emotional maturity, communication style, and readiness for genuine connection. This younger soul may find themselves becoming more patient because of what they feel toward you. Instead of rushing impulsively, they are learning restraint and thoughtfulness. They may be realizing that meaningful relationships are not built through pressure or fantasy, but through mutual trust and emotional understanding. In many ways, caring about someone sincerely encourages personal growth because it forces people to think beyond their own immediate desires. There is also something powerful about emotional timing. Not every meaningful connection enters our lives at the right moment immediately. Sometimes people meet while one or both individuals are still navigating personal uncertainty, emotional healing, or life transitions. A connection may exist quietly beneath the surface, while both people grow into the emotional space required to fully recognize it. This does not mean destiny is controlling every detail of life. It simply reflects the reality that timing influences relationships deeply. The person thinking about you may sense this as well. They may feel that rushing forward would not create the kind of connection they truly want. Instead, they are waiting for emotional clarity, both within themselves and within the circumstances surrounding you. They may hope for a moment that feels natural rather than forced, a conversation that unfolds comfortably rather than awkwardly. Sometimes the most genuine interactions happen when people stop trying so hard to control outcomes and simply allow honesty to guide the moment. There is a difference between infatuation and emotional sincerity. Infatuation tends to focus on fantasy and idealization. Genuine emotional interest, however, involves curiosity about the real person behind the surface. This person may not be imagining perfection. Instead, they may simply feel that being near you brings a sense of calm and emotional safety they do not experience often. They may admire your imperfections alongside your strengths, because authentic connection is rooted in reality rather than illusion. What often surprises people is how deeply they can be affected by someone who simply feels emotionally safe. In a fast-moving world where many interactions feel performative or temporary, emotional steadiness becomes incredibly attractive. A person who listens sincerely, communicates honestly, and treats others with respect can leave a stronger emotional impact than someone constantly demanding attention. Quiet kindness often stays in people's hearts longer than dramatic intensity. At times, you yourself may sense that something meaningful is approaching emotionally, even if you cannot define its shape yet. Human intuition is not magic, but emotional awareness often notices subtle shifts before the mind fully understands them. You may feel more reflective lately, more aware of your emotional needs, or more open to meaningful connection than before. Sometimes this emotional readiness creates space for new relationships to develop naturally. Still, it is important to approach these possibilities with grounded expectations rather than fantasy. Real relationships are built through communication, compatibility, trust, and shared emotional effort. Attraction alone is not enough to sustain meaningful connection. What matters most is whether two people can create mutual respect, emotional honesty, and genuine understanding over time. Healthy relationships are not defined by mystery or emotional games. They are defined by consistency, care, and emotional safety. The person quietly thinking about you may eventually gather the courage to express themselves in small ways first, perhaps through longer conversations, more thoughtful questions, or moments of emotional openness that reveal deeper interest. Rarely do meaningful connections appear all at once. More often, they unfold gradually through ordinary interactions that slowly become emotionally significant. There is something beautiful about this gradual unfolding because it allows both people to remain human rather than idealized. Instead of building unrealistic expectations immediately, they have time to see each other clearly. They notice habits, values, emotional responses, and communication styles. They begin understanding whether admiration can grow into something stable and mutual. This process may feel slower, but it often creates healthier foundations for genuine connection. At the same time, vulnerability always carries uncertainty. The person drawn toward you may fear rejection or misunderstanding. They may wonder whether you see them only casually, while they quietly feel something deeper. These fears are natural, because emotional openness always involves risk. Every meaningful relationship requires someone to become emotionally brave enough to say what they feel honestly. What matters most, however, is not dramatic romance, but emotional sincerity. A connection becomes meaningful when both people feel respected, understood, and emotionally safe around each other. The strongest relationships are often those where conversations feel effortless, silence feels comfortable, and neither person feels pressured to perform constantly. Emotional peace is one of the most underrated forms of intimacy. This is why genuine attraction often feels calmer than people expect. Movies and social media frequently portray love as chaotic intensity, but real emotional connection can feel surprisingly steady. It may arrive quietly through comfort, trust, and emotional familiarity rather than overwhelming excitement. Someone may slowly become an important emotional presence in your life simply because being around them feels natural and grounding. There is also personal growth hidden inside these experiences. Even before a relationship officially begins, emotional connection can encourage self-reflection. People start thinking more carefully about the kind of partner they want to be, the emotional patterns they carry, and the qualities they truly value. In this way, attraction sometimes becomes a mirror that reveals emotional maturity people did not realize they were developing. The younger soul thinking about you may already be experiencing this transformation internally. They may be learning patience, emotional responsibility, and deeper self-awareness simply through trying to understand their feelings honestly. What they admire in you may also be qualities they hope to strengthen within themselves: calmness, stability, empathy, or emotional depth. As time moves forward, moments of clarity often arrive naturally. Conversations become more personal. Emotional tension becomes easier to recognize. Shared experiences create stronger familiarity. Eventually, one or both people realize that what they are feeling is no longer accidental curiosity, but genuine emotional connection. When handled with respect and honesty, these realizations can become the beginning of something deeply meaningful. Still, no relationship should be built on fantasy or idealization alone. Real connection requires seeing each other fully as human beings, with flaws, fears, and emotional complexity. The healthiest form of attraction is not about placing someone on a pedestal, but about appreciating who they truly are, while continuing to grow together honestly. In many ways, the quietest beginnings often become the most meaningful, because they are built slowly and intentionally. There is no rush to force outcomes or create dramatic declarations before emotional trust exists. Instead, the connection develops naturally through time, observation, and shared emotional presence. This creates space for authenticity rather than performance. You may eventually discover that what felt like subtle emotional energy was simply two people becoming aware of each other in a deeper way than either expected. Not through manipulation or fantasy, but through genuine human connection built on curiosity, respect, and emotional understanding. And when moments like this unfold naturally, they often feel less like sudden surprises and more like something quietly growing into clarity all along. At the heart of every meaningful connection is the simple desire to feel seen and understood by another person. When someone recognizes your emotional depth, your kindness, your steadiness, or your ability to create comfort without force, it leaves a lasting impact. These qualities are not always loud, but they are deeply valuable in relationships that are meant to last. Life has a way of bringing people together when both emotional readiness and timing begin aligning naturally. Sometimes the connection arrives quietly, without dramatic signs or immediate certainty, but grows stronger through honesty and mutual respect. And when two people allow that process to unfold patiently, rather than forcing it, what develops can feel sincere, grounding, and emotionally transformative in the healthiest possible way. They are not driven by impulse, but by a desire to connect in a way that feels respectful, balanced, and emotionally safe. This is why their energy feels steady rather than chaotic, focused rather than scattered. There are moments when this person almost reaches out, almost takes a step forward, but then pauses, not out of fear, but out of awareness. They know that timing matters, and that true connection cannot be rushed without losing its meaning. They are learning to read the silence between moments, understanding that sometimes waiting is an act of care. What you may notice is a subtle shift in your own thoughts, a sense of curiosity about someone you cannot fully place, or a feeling that someone is thinking of you more often than you realize. This is not imagination, but resonance. Their thoughts are consistent, intentional, and quietly hopeful. They are not expecting anything from you yet, only hoping that when the moment arrives, you will feel the same sense of calm recognition they already feel. This anticipation is not draining them, but strengthening their emotional maturity. What makes this connection powerful is the way it is changing both of you before any words are exchanged. They are becoming more self-aware, more patient, and more respectful of emotional boundaries because of you. Without realizing it, you are teaching them that real closeness is built on trust, presence, and mutual understanding. They do not want to impress you with noise or gestures, but with sincerity and steadiness. In their mind, the idea of being close to you feels comforting rather than overwhelming, as if it would bring clarity rather than confusion. They imagine moments where laughter comes easily, where silence feels natural, and where emotional warmth replaces uncertainty. This is not about fantasy, but about envisioning a connection that feels grounded and real. You may sense a shift in your own emotional space, as if you are becoming more open without knowing why. This is because the energy between you is already interacting, even if you have not acknowledged it consciously. Life has a way of preparing the heart before revealing the reason. This younger person feels that when they finally speak, it will not feel like an intrusion, but like a continuation of something that already exists. They are aware that you value depth over surface interactions, and this understanding guides their restraint. They do not want to approach you as someone seeking attention, but as someone offering genuine presence. This awareness sets them apart from others and makes this connection feel different from anything you have experienced before. What is coming is not meant to disrupt your life, but to add a layer of meaning you did not realize was missing. When the moment arrives, it will feel calm, respectful, and emotionally clear, as if both of you intuitively understand what is unfolding. You will recognize that this connection was never about age, timing, or circumstance, but about alignment and emotional truth. The reason it feels so powerful now is because it is still forming, still pure, and still guided by intention rather than impulse. Stay aware of your emotions, because what is approaching you carries the potential to open a new chapter built on mutual respect, curiosity, and emotional depth. This is only the beginning of what is slowly, carefully, and meaningfully making its way toward you. My beloved child, what you are sensing now is the quiet pressure of inevitability, the feeling that something meaningful is moving closer no matter how calmly life appears on the surface. This younger person is no longer confused about what they feel, but they are becoming deliberate about how they handle it. They are realizing that this connection deserves patience, clarity, and honesty, not haste. In their thoughts, you are not a mystery to solve, but a presence to respect. They are asking themselves how to show interest without disturbing your peace, how to be present without demanding attention, and how to speak without forcing a response. This level of care is rare, and it is growing stronger with each passing day. They are not waiting for permission from the world, but for alignment within themselves. Quiet moments are becoming louder for them, because your presence keeps returning to their mind without invitation. They imagine your reactions, your pauses, and the way you might listen more than you speak. They are learning that what draws them to you is not intensity, but balance. This realization changes how they move through their own life, making them more aware of their actions and intentions. They want to arrive in your space as someone who adds value, not noise. You may notice subtle signs around you, repeated thoughts, familiar emotions resurfacing, or a calm anticipation that feels different from excitement. These are not distractions, but signals that something sincere is forming beneath the surface. There is also a deeper truth unfolding that you may not yet see clearly. This connection is challenging old patterns for both of you, asking you to slow down, to feel, and to trust without rushing toward conclusions. They are learning that attraction does not have to be loud to be real, and you are learning that meaningful connections often arrive quietly. The younger person is becoming more grounded, more intentional, and more emotionally aware, because they sense that you would recognize authenticity immediately. They do not want to arrive unprepared, because what they feel deserves respect. This preparation is shaping them into someone stronger than they were before this connection began. At the same time, your own emotional awareness is sharpening, even if you cannot explain why. You may feel more reflective, more selective about who you allow into your inner space, and more aware of subtle energies around you. This is because your intuition is adjusting to something new that is approaching. The connection ahead is not meant to confuse you, but to clarify what truly matters. When the moment finally arrives, it will not feel sudden, even if it appears unexpected. It will feel like recognition, as if your awareness simply catches up with what has already been unfolding. What matters most now is not action, but awareness. This younger person is closer than you realize, emotionally aligned even if physically distant. They are not rushing toward a moment, because they trust that when the timing is right, the connection will speak for itself. When you finally notice them clearly, you will understand why everything unfolded this way. This chapter is still writing itself, slowly and intentionally, building toward a moment that will feel calm, sincere, and unmistakably real. My beloved child, now the energy between you and this younger person begins to shift from silent awareness into quiet readiness, the kind that does not announce itself but can be felt if you slow down enough to notice. They are no longer only observing from a distance, because something inside them has settled into certainty. This certainty is calm, respectful, and deeply intentional. They are preparing themselves emotionally, not to impress you, but to meet you where you are, without masks or expectations. In their mind, they are rehearsing honesty, not lines. They are imagining how to express interest without pressure, how to show curiosity without crossing boundaries, and how to allow the connection to breathe naturally. This preparation is not anxious, but thoughtful. It reflects a maturity that surprises even them, because this feeling has encouraged growth rather than confusion. What is important to understand is that this person is not trying to change your world, but to gently step into it if invited. They sense that you value depth and sincerity, and this understanding guides every thought they have about you. They are paying attention to timing, emotional signals, and subtle cues, because they do not want to approach you at a moment that feels wrong. You may feel moments of heightened awareness, as if your intuition is alert for something undefined. This is not restlessness, but recognition forming beneath the surface. The connection is nearing a point where silence will no longer be enough, and yet it will not break abruptly, It will unfold in a way that feels steady and considerate, honoring both of your emotional spaces. There is also a growing sense of mutual curiosity, even if it has not been acknowledged openly. This curiosity is gentle, not intrusive, and it carries a feeling of safety rather than urgency. They wonder how you think, how you see the world, and what experiences shaped your calm strength. These thoughts are not superficial, but reflective, and they encourage them to listen more and assume less. In the background, life seems to be aligning small opportunities for awareness, moments where paths almost cross, or thoughts unexpectedly linger. These moments are not meant to push you, but to prepare you to notice what is already present. At the same time, you may find yourself becoming more aware of emotional honesty, both within yourself and in others. You may feel less interested in shallow exchanges, and more drawn to interactions that feel genuine and grounded. This shift is not coincidence, but alignment. The connection ahead is asking you to remain present, rather than distracted, open rather than guarded. When this younger person steps forward, it will not feel like an interruption, but like a continuation of a conversation that began without words. The calmness you feel now is part of that preparation, allowing you to receive what is approaching with clarity rather than surprise. What unfolds next will not be rushed, and it will not feel overwhelming. It will feel like understanding arriving at the right pace. This connection is not built on intensity, but on emotional steadiness and respect. When awareness becomes mutual, you will recognize the care behind their approach and the sincerity behind their presence. Everything leading to this moment has been intentional, shaping both of you quietly and patiently. This chapter is nearing a point of gentle revelation, one that will feel natural, grounded, and deeply meaningful when it finally steps into the open. My beloved child, the moment you have been unconsciously preparing for is drawing closer, and it carries a clarity that will feel calm rather than dramatic. This younger person has reached a point where waiting has taught them enough, and now understanding is guiding their next step. They are no longer questioning whether this connection is real, but how to honor it properly. Their intention is simple and sincere, to allow closeness to form naturally, without pressure or expectation. They are aware that what they feel deserves honesty, patience, and emotional balance. This awareness gives their presence a quiet confidence, one that does not demand attention but naturally invites it. When you finally sense this shift clearly, it will feel like the air itself has changed, subtle yet undeniable. What makes this moment powerful is that it does not arrive with noise, but with recognition. You may notice a calm awareness settling in your thoughts, as if something suddenly makes sense, without explanation. This is because your intuition is aligning with what has been unfolding behind the scenes. The connection ahead is not meant to surprise you, but to feel familiar, as if you have already met it in another form. This younger person is not approaching you to fill a void, but to share a space of mutual curiosity and emotional presence. They are ready to listen as much as they speak, to understand as much as they reveal. This balance is what gives the connection its strength. There is also a sense of emotional safety forming around this connection, one that allows openness without vulnerability feeling risky. You may feel more at ease expressing your true thoughts, even before any conversation takes place. This is because the energy between you is grounded in respect rather than urgency. They are not trying to rush toward a label or outcome, but to allow understanding to grow step. Everything now begins unfolding with intention, instead of uncertainty. What once felt distant or difficult to interpret slowly becomes clearer, not through dramatic declarations, but through consistency, presence, and emotional honesty revealed step by step. This gradual unfolding is important because it creates trust before deeper words are ever exchanged. The connection is not being forced into existence, it is being allowed to grow naturally, which is why the eventual interaction feels calm, sincere, and unforced, rather than overwhelming. The patience surrounding this connection is not hesitation, it is care. The younger person understands this now more deeply than before. They no longer feel pulled by urgency or emotional impulse. Instead, they are moving with awareness, choosing each step carefully because they recognize the value of what they feel. They know that meaningful closeness cannot be rushed without losing its sincerity. Because of this understanding, their presence around you begins carrying a different energy altogether. You may notice it in subtle ways first. A thoughtful pause before they speak. The way they remain emotionally present without trying too hard to impress you. The way conversations begin feeling more grounded and less uncertain. Small gestures begin carrying more meaning than dramatic actions ever could. Nothing feels performative anymore because their intention has become clear internally before being expressed outwardly. That clarity changes the atmosphere between you. This is the stage where curiosity slowly transforms into understanding, and understanding begins evolving into a quiet kind of closeness that feels steady instead of confusing. The younger person no longer wonders whether they should move closer emotionally. That internal conflict has already settled. What remains now is a calm readiness to approach the connection with honesty, patience, and mutual respect. Their readiness does not come from believing they can predict the outcome. It comes from certainty about their intention. That distinction matters deeply. Someone who is certain only about outcomes often acts from fear or control, trying to secure reassurance before vulnerability exists. But someone who is certain about intention moves differently. They focus on sincerity rather than guarantees. They understand that real connection cannot be controlled into existence. It can only be recognized, nurtured, and approached truthfully. That is why what unfolds next feels less like something being chased and more like something finally arriving at the right time. You may sense this shift within yourself as well. Your awareness becomes sharper in quiet moments. Emotions feel less scattered. Your intuition becomes stronger, almost as though your mind is beginning to recognize something meaningful before words fully confirm it. This is not coincidence. It is emotional alignment forming gradually beneath the surface. The connection approaching you does not demand attention loudly. Instead, it invites presence gently. It encourages you to slow down enough to notice what feels different. Certain interactions begin standing out. Certain moments feel calmer, deeper, more emotionally balanced than others. You may sense that someone is holding emotional space for you carefully, even before anything direct is openly acknowledged. This feeling carries weight precisely because it is subtle. Intensity often overwhelms people quickly, but sincerity reveals itself more quietly. The younger person understands this now. They are no longer trying to prove themselves through dramatic expression or emotional pressure. Instead, they are prepared to show you who they truly are through consistency, patience, and grounded presence. That authenticity becomes increasingly difficult to overlook. Their respect for your emotional boundaries shapes every step they take toward you. They are not attempting to persuade you into closeness. or force emotional reactions from you. They want the connection to feel mutual, balanced, and safe for both of you. Because of this, trust begins forming naturally, without needing constant reassurance or explanation. And trust built naturally always lasts longer than trust built through emotional urgency. At this stage, the connection begins feeling less like anticipation and more like quiet presence. You may notice yourself relaxing emotionally around the idea of it. Doubts lose intensity, fear softens. There is less pressure to analyze every possibility because something inside you already recognizes the sincerity behind what is unfolding. This calmness is important. It means you are no longer reacting from uncertainty. You are beginning to respond from awareness instead. The interaction ahead is not arriving to disrupt your life emotionally or throw everything into chaos. It arrives to add depth, honesty, and emotional steadiness where confusion may once have existed. This is how meaningful connections often grow, not through dramatic beginnings, but through gradual recognition, through repeated moments of emotional consistency, through the quiet realization that someone's presence brings clarity instead of confusion. Everything that has unfolded up to this point has been preparing both of you for this stage of understanding. The connection now stands close to expression, not forced expression, natural expression, the kind that emerges when silence no longer feels uncertain, but full. At this point, silence itself begins carrying meaning, because both awareness and intention are becoming mutual. The younger person feels this deeply. Instead of rushing forward impulsively, they are choosing steadiness over haste. They understand now that true closeness does not need to announce itself dramatically to be real. It is felt quietly through emotional safety, consistency, and mutual understanding. Their emotional awareness has deepened significantly through this connection. They have become more sensitive to your emotional rhythm, more aware of when to step closer, and when to simply remain present without pressure. This emotional maturity did not exist in them fully before, but the connection itself has helped shape it. They are no longer driven solely by curiosity. They are guided by respect, and respect changes the entire emotional tone of what unfolds next. You may feel a subtle calmness settling into your own thoughts during this phase. Doubts that once felt heavy begin losing their grip naturally. There is less emotional tension around the unknown, because your intuition is beginning to trust what it senses. This calm creates space for recognition instead of reaction. You are not being pushed toward a decision or forced into emotional intensity. You are being gently guided toward awareness, toward recognizing sincerity, without fear distorting it. The energy surrounding the connection begins feeling more focused now. Distractions lose emotional importance. Other noise fades into the background because something genuine is approaching the surface, asking only to be acknowledged honestly. And honesty always carries a different kind of emotional power than pressure does. The younger person is prepared now to meet you without hidden expectations. They are no longer building fantasies or emotionally rehearsing impossible outcomes. Instead, they are focusing on what is real: presence, trust, honesty, and mutual understanding. Their thoughts feel steadier, their intentions clearer, their approach calmer. They want the moment between you to feel genuine rather than dramatic, natural rather than rehearsed. This groundedness protects the balance forming between you. Neither of you feels emotionally overwhelmed because the connection is unfolding at a pace built on respect rather than urgency. That balance is exactly what allows curiosity to evolve into something lasting. You may also notice that your emotional boundaries feel clearer now, though not harsher. You are not becoming closed off. You are simply becoming more aware of what sincerity feels like, compared to emotional inconsistency. This awareness allows you to recognize authentic connection without confusion clouding your judgment. And because the connection respects your emotional clarity, it feels safe rather than overwhelming. There is already an unspoken understanding beginning to form between you, one that does not rely entirely on words to feel real. That understanding creates confidence internally before anything major is openly expressed. What happens next will not feel like a sudden event disrupting everything around you. It will feel like arrival, a gentle, emotionally grounded arrival where timing finally feels aligned not because life suddenly became perfect, but because awareness became mutual. The connection is no longer hidden beneath uncertainty. It is moving slowly into recognition, and recognition changes everything quietly. The connection now stands ready to move from awareness into expression, guided by patience, sincerity, respect, and emotional truth. Everything leading to this moment has prepared both of you to meet each other with greater clarity than before.